as given. I am Commissioner Albert Rachidi. I'm a born again believer in the gospel of Jesus Christ who died and rose again. I believe there's only one God above all, and the Holy Spirit has a permanent residency in me. Yeah, and I'm God's favorite son. I like to say that a lot. And if you doubt it, tonight when you go to bed and have your last word with the Lord, just ask him who's his favorite son. Listen carefully, you might just hear somebody's name there. So, well, I'm God's favorite, not just because He sent Jesus on earth to die for me and the rest of y'all. He's blessed me with an honor of being a husband to the best prototype of a perfect wife heaven has ever produced thus far, and has tasked me with the honor of fathering three of the most amazing replicas of myself. I'm a son to parents who embodied and lived out love in its truest form. My parents met at church. They had their first kiss actually at their wedding and built a legacy together till death did them part. So if you want to tell me anyone could have had a better life than I am, I would still argue. Hence, I'm saying that I'm God's favorite son. Last but not least, I inherited, and I reiterate that I'm God's favorite son because I'm one third of the most authentic version of a brotherhood as it could humanly get. And that's helped me to be a better brother to all other brothers and friends I've met along the journey of life. Look, in my understanding of this brief, is that I'm going to share a journey of my life through business, and through that, you guys will pick up the lessons to be learned. This is not a lecture. This is my story. And if you can keep in the back of your minds the book of Psalms, chapter 37, there are nuances, well, there are scriptures that reflect through my story. I will then at the end pick some of my favorites, and then you will go back and link it up to my story, because my story has a lot of endings before beginning and beginnings that integrate with another story's ending to make it make more sense. And as my bio has said, I'm born and raised in Polokwane, wrapped up my grade school, tested the waters at tertiary, and my passion for sports, blah, blah, blah. It's important that I just quickly highlight that past as it's closely linked to my journey. I was first introduced to entrepreneurship by my dad, not formally though. I've just always known that my dad dropped out of school and was working for his wife and sons. Couldn't figure out exactly what he did, because at least with mom, we knew that she was a teacher, so she got paid at the end of the month. But what fascinated me the most was this one who claimed to be working for us, always leading family meetings and sharing his next big dream and his next big idea with his sons and his wife. I mean, sons who were barely out of preschool, but he would host these meetings and tell us exactly this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. All four of us were baffled at what's this man going to do, or how is this going to happen? Even mom sometimes didn't even get where he was going, and everything he spoke of would come to existence. I think that's what always stood out for me. He would surprise us and mom with gifts that even mom would be shocked at how could he manage to acquire such, yet we thought mommy was the formal was the one with the formal job and was supposed to be the really moneyed one. So it just built this curiosity in me. I'm told that when I was much, much younger, before I can even remember, I loved meat so much. I didn't, and I wouldn't want to eat anything else on my plate. So when mom would force me to eat after other food, I'd say, when I grow up, I'm going to own a butchery. And all the leftover meat from my day, I'm going to take home to eat. So I guess that's when I was like, okay, yeah, I want to do something about this, you know. So fast forward to the Sunday, the 29th of December, 1996. As I walked out of church with my dad and my brothers, two strangers walked up to us and our world changed. Three gunshots later, my dad laid on the ground, and questions started to arise in my head. Who's going to pay for our school fees? who's going to pay for all these cars and the salaries for the workers that my dad had. And then I made a promise to myself that I won't be burdened, that I won't be a burden to my mom. I'm going to help and I'm going to do everything in my power to provide. Surprisingly, Walter, my older brother, had also taken the same oath internally without consulting with any of us. And Tex, our youngest brother, he's just that amazing, super creature that God has made that knows how to turn concepts into tangible and profitable things. So then the journey started in primary school days. I hadn't quite figured myself out as yet. So I hadn't started exercising my entrepreneurial mind, but little did I know that the challenges we would face at home would teach me valuable lessons that I'd need now. I remember the number of times, the two numbers, sorry. I remember the two numbers that I knew off by heart, and I'm sure my brothers will attest to this. We knew mom and our family lawyers' numbers off by heart, not anybody else. So whenever someone came and tried to scavenge something of what my dad had left behind for us, be it through their lawyers or their sheriffs, we knew very well that no one was allowed to enter our home without consent of an adult until our lawyer comes or they get a hold of him over the phone. Who's entrusted with such responsibilities as a primary school child? But little did I know this would be valuable information for me in the business space. Today, fast forward to grade 8, I'm forced to join the rugby team at my high school because my cousin went to the same school and was at the time playing professional rugby. He may have made it known to my rugby and cricket coach that his little brother was coming to the school, and I'm a brilliant cricketer and potentially a good rugby player. I avoided rugby though because it wasn't my first choice until a few games into the rugby season when Umfai Matfield, if anyone knows the Matfield name, the gentleman who taught me how to play rugby and cricket is Victor Matfield's father, late father, the former Springbok part captain and full-time vice captain. And he located me at the cricket nets and dragged me to the rugby team. Since the season had already started, a team was already formulated and was already playing. And there were a few matches into the season. So I came in, and by the second practice, I was selected to start the next match for the A team at the expense of Scott. So then it created this rift between Scott and I, whom I didn't really know much at the time, and we fought for a place in the team. Needless to say, Scott never played for the A team since then, and he'd had to change positions and subsequently change schools at a later stage in our schooling career. That beef gave birth to one of a lifelong brotherhood between Scott and I. So over discussions way after our rugby chats, Scott and I realized that we had a passion for food and we both wanted to be in business. He knew a bit about the culinary art, a bit more about the culinary art than I do. So on a random day, we made a promise to each other that one day, when we're done with high school, he would get into a culinary school, and I'd raise capital for us to establish a fine diner slash butchery outlet in our later years. Those lost as why I speak of my early rugby days in Scott. Scott Dressels was one of my groomsmen this past December at my wedding. And those who know a bit about the culinary space, Scott is actually the current executive head chef at Saxon Hotel's Tulu restaurant. And just to give a more in-depth detail of Tulu restaurant, it's SA's top 100 restaurants, winner for the best restaurant in 2024. He's been my counsel for bouncing back ideas on my businesses and new ventures that I want to go to since we were in school. And we are fast on the path to opening our first venture together. In 2012, after I walked out of my first job a year earlier, I moved out of my townhouse, let go of my first precious car that I had bought with the help of Walter, moved back home and opened my first entity, State Ground Trading and Projects. With this core, with its core business being in the civil and general construction space, general building construction space. I ran around thinking it's this amazing business that's just going to take off and everything's going to be hunky-dory. I'm going to upgrade the car from the one that I had before, but goodness me, reality did its thing on me. I think I only secured my first proper contract about a year later after burning through all the savings that I had and what little did I have at the time, not knowing. And the profits that I made from that very project, because knowing so little about the construction space, I ended up subcontracting the whole project to the cousin that introduced me to rugby and his business partner. And I realized that I'd undercoated and it was just a big mess. But nonetheless, that's when my journey with entrepreneurship. Yes, in the earlier days in school, I ran a small operation where I would install car sound, connect DSTV and home automation. Well, back in the day, it was just a hi-fi or surround sound, but I still prefer to call it home automation systems. That's what I did for extra pennies to keep me afloat, and I would dabble into what I later realized was not so legitimate businesses of buying and selling what do you call it? Expropriated phones of other people. But I was still young then. I didn't understand the legalities of that, but it's a story for another day. And today, 12 years later, the entity still stands. It has given birth to multiple other ventures, and we participate in. Just to make it easier for everyone to understand, when I say we and I, it's all us. It's not me alone. I'm a part owner in entities which I co-own with my brothers, be it by birth, by adoption, or those that are still blood relatives to me. Oh, baby, can you please go back? Oh, sorry, guys, I've got a fan. So, to date, um, added to State Ground, I participate in Penden, which I solely own, that participates in asphalt production, road paving, aggregate supply, and energy saving technologies. There's also Dizama Investments, which is a multidisciplinary consultancy in the built environment, and RAB Holdings, which is in the rail, rolling stock, and channel management. If you are following the developments around Transnet and private rail operations, just remember that name, RAB Holdings. Now, for me, I was just given that as a background to who exactly I am and what exactly it is that I do. But I've been grappling with 3 or 4 questions that I had to ask myself. Why did I become an entrepreneur? Why am I an entrepreneur and not just a working class citizen? I really, from the bottom of my heart, all I've ever wanted to do was just to provide for mom, provide for my brothers and everyone that I've absorbed along this journey of life. And in a way, I just wanted to pick up where my dad left off and pave the way for those that outlive me. Um, Look, people think you go into business because you want to be the next big thing. Yes, I've got ambition to be bigger than anybody that I've ever encountered. But at the heart of it, you always remember why you do it, which then dictates how you do what you do. So it then threw me to the question of, then if really all I wanted to do was to provide, why did I skip the formal education? And I realized that my dad had such a great impact on me, yet he was a school dropout. And I think I just had it in my head that the best and the brightest and the biggest business people, because he was colossal in his right. Were informally educated people, people that educated themselves more than they did. So, but I did promise my mom that I wouldn't drop out of school. At least I did pass my matric, and I did. The only one in the household with a distinction, if I may add. But I put that aside and decided to follow my father's footsteps. Hence, some of my other previous attempts at studying failed. But right now, I choose to study my LLB, not so that I can be recognized as a lawyer per se. I really grapple with the with the idea of sitting in a room or around a boardroom, and there's another person who knows better than I do, who knows more than I do. So, and every transaction that I engage in has a certain, well, to a very large extent, legal implications to it. So I'd rather know than not know. Hence, I'm studying LLB. I doubt I'm gonna practice law at any point, unless maybe in my retirement days. So, what makes my business journey unique and my approach to business is ethicality in every transaction. I'm in constant pursuit of superior information ahead of my competitors. One may ask, how possible is it then to pursue ethicality in a space when you deal with government and corrupt elements within? But for me, it's always been about knowing more than my competitors, in some cases, even knowing better than those that handle my documents. So it's just always about knowing more, knowing better. And to be honest, I've been in spaces wherein a deal was unethically lined up for my sole benefit, but I had to grapple with the harsh reality that that's not how I do business, and had to publicly, in some cases, poke holes at those transactions, which may have led to their cancellations and sometimes fallouts with the powers that be. But it has also opened doors for me where we could have never been able to explore and be able to operate under ordinary circumstances that are subscribed by the children of this world. And our biggest leap in business, honestly, came after COVID broke out, because we had been working so hard trying to perfect what we do and not profit from it, to a point where when COVID hit, we're able to walk into spaces that we need not have to explain ourselves, but our works would be always explain itself, and we would not need to be illegitimately processed through. And subsequently, others who were used to just making it through the connect and unethical ways had to fall off because the spotlight was on government spending at that time. So it really catapulted us to where we are today. The second point of what makes us unique, or me unique in the business space, is that I honestly surround myself with like-minded brothers. I thrive on hanging out with people that know more than I do, because that way I always end up learning something that I did not know before. So, and I seek counsel of people who have experienced what I do and have more experience in the business space. The other day, when we were cleaning up, the first day of cleanup, go the new churchyard. We had an interesting conversation about money with the gentleman at church. And one of the issues was, there's always that saving, and then there's that other saving that the savings, common savings at home does not know. How and when do you tap into that? And I actually learned something quite interesting about myself. I thought maybe it's standard, but I realized it's something that's unique in the fact that you, well, I always have somebody who is more rational than I am to seek counsel from when I need to break that emergency glass in an emergency situation. So if my tire bursts and I feel like I need to tap into that saving that I was not that was for rainy days, I would have to call somebody, and that person would then poke holes in my story before the resources can be made available. And I mean, that's just one of the lessons that I've had to learn being in business, that uh, most of the times, as young Black entrepreneurs, we we sort of become the business itself, and the business doesn't become its own legal entity. In that the account, your business becomes your personal account, and vice versa. Personal money then serves the business at the cost of family. But I remember alerting the gents that we have, for that very reason, we have structures in businesses, and there are directors and there are boards of directors and there are non-executive directors and all sorts of funny posts. We think that guys are just there to chow directors' fees, but to be honest, that's literally what it is for that business. And the same principle can be used in our personal lives, wherein you need to seek counsel on things that you would generally not be rational about. And one of the hardest issues is the money issue. It's very difficult to be rational to yourself about not upgrading. Why can't I just upgrade my iPhone 14 to iPhone 15 Pro Max simply because I can afford it? When the iPhone 14 is only 6 months old. So some of these things I've had to learn. So yeah, the challenges that we have to I have to overcome on a daily in my business space. Look, for me, it's about staying ahead at all times, understanding what the competition does, what's the next big opportunity, where do I go next? I sometimes carry friends and my brothers to spaces that we would have never imagined would be. Last year, I took my good friend Mavala to a corner of this land that was quite baffling for him as well to find himself in. And it was my first trip as well, but we were there nonetheless to explore and try and get something out of it. So it's always about being ahead of everyone else. Be willing to take that to drive that extra kilometer, to take that extra meeting after you tired or you had passed out at home already and a call comes in. And another thing, networking and marketing oneself continuously has been the secret to overcoming most challenges in the business. Because when you network and market yourself, you are in constant communication with people that will poke holes in your idea, people that will always add value to your ideas and also expose you to opportunities that you would have never found yourself in. And yeah, why do I do it? there's there's the part where I want to be like my dad, I want to do it. But honestly, why not do it? If there's an opportunity that can be taken, why not take it? If you're not the one to take it, who should take it then? So for me, that's how I always carry myself in business. I hope I didn't take you guys through a lecture of how to run a business and all of that, of which was not my intention from the onset. But that is my short little presentation in a nutshell. I think we can take it from there. Thank you. Okay, I'm looking at the the chats.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Rachidi.
Uh,
Um, thank you for sharing so much insight. I think for me, you captured me when you said, "This is not a lecture, this is my story," and indeed, you did justice to that. So I'm just gonna open the floor for Q&A. Everyone and anyone is welcome. Um, I'm seeing on the chat there are some conversations. So maybe we could start there and then we'll take it to the floor to ask vocally or verbally if people still have follow-ups. Um, Zindeni says, I was not familiar with your pen game, my brother. Me too, Mr. Rachidi. You shocked us. You surprised us. That was a beautiful intro. It was very poetic. The Macheles asked, Machele, they asked, do you think it's harder to enter a business field that you did not study for compared to a person who studied formally in that field? Um, you can respond to that, Mr. Rachidi.
okay. Thank you very much. Well, Zundeni, I take that as a compliment. Thanks, brother. Really appreciate that. To the Machele's question, do you think it harder to enter business field industry that you did not study compared to a person who studied? Look, I think business is it's a balancing act. It's cost, your cost input, your labor or capital and output, whether it's profit. Uh, a lot of people will try and be, finicky about how to do it technically right. I think to some extent, any business you can enter without much knowledge, as long as you know the basics of keeping a business afloat. It might be easier maybe if you have studied it, but I honestly don't think, for me, formal education is that big a deal to enter into the business space. Maybe once you get to a certain level, yes, I I I can't touch my books. I got a B in accounting for high school, but I don't know how to handle my books at this level. So that I outsource. But the basics, sorry, did we make a profit or a loss? I'm well vested with that. And I don't think I would have needed to get an accounting degree to do that. So business is there for everyone, guys. An opportunity comes up. Somebody once said an average person has 10,000 million-dollar business ideas a day, but less than 1% of human beings actually tap into any of those opportunities every day and write them down. So even the guy cleaning the floor could be a business person, and actuarial could be a business person. Anyone can be a business person. Yeah. Oh, oh my goodness. My wife asked a very, very damning question. Um, how do you sustain yourself financially and psychologically whilst you are waiting for an opportunity or a payment? She knows we prioritize us happiness, and she knows I'll burn through her last grand just so that we can just make ourselves feel better and say God is gonna provide, so we're gonna take the limudimule and Aramulakila in the deep end. But on the psychological part, I think you need to be strong-willed. Yeah, you need to have a strong mind to operate in the business space because it's always a slippery slope, but it really helps to be surrounded by people who are for you. I think my wife, my mom, and my sister-in-law are my biggest cheerleaders. I think I wouldn't stand tall if I didn't have such people. And the funny thing about it is that she has been my cheerleader for the past, 19 to 20 years now, this year. Even before we were in our formal in an intimate relationship, we were good friends. So she's always played a part in ensuring that I don't lose myself. So yeah, and play a lot of golf. I think golf is something that I've been recently introduced to. I realized that you can go away for 6 hours and forget that you are broke. So when things are not right, go play golf. When you got a bit of extra money, go play golf. So that's the thing that keeps me going. Did you ever think, what if it doesn't work, and how did you overcome that? Oh yeah, no, I need you need that. You need to constantly have that fear. I remember when was it last? When did we go to church yard on Sunday? Um, my conversation Lemabala when was referring to something of this nature where we were like, but the only way we are able to keep ourselves afloat is that very fear of failing. What if this doesn't work? Because honestly, when the dream was born, it was just me. I had no other responsibilities but my mom and my brothers, of which everyone, I believe, could fend for themselves. But I had this notion that I must just do something about it. But fast forward now, I have a wife, I've got kids, we've got responsibilities. It's always a fear. Why? What if this doesn't work? But um, I pray, I pray to God about it. I do something about it. If you guys remember that wristband that we used to have in our younger days in the early 2000s, yeah, push pray until something happens. I've got a very funny prayer schedule, but I honestly not tell God straight, or, please don't embarrass me because you're gonna embarrass yourself because I chose to be unorthodox. So that's how I overcome my what if it doesn't work. God just comes through for me. Tondani, when did you make your first million? How did you make it? Of which of your ventures contributed the most? Um, the first million in turnover, I think in turnover it was 2018. I was part of another entity which I've walked out of since. Um, it was also in the construction space. How did you make it? Yeah, it was in the construction space. We were paving roads for Sunrail contractors. So we had managed to find a space when a lot of contractors, big contractors, um, they were unable to execute projects due to their BE scorecard, and proposed to them with the partnership of gents that I'm still working with to this day, that we would come in as a specialized road paving company, which was a niche market. And it also helped them because their local spend as well was becoming an issue when there were not enough unskilled subcontracts to service that 30%. So we came and proposed that. And in turn, we managed to find them a big line item on the bill that they could subcontract to a BE company locally and still be able to reach their targets. So that's how the first million was made. I won't lie to you, not much profit came from that, but I was at least able to deposit a house, uh, which we still have to pay through to this day. I wish that million was all mine. So yeah, road asphalt paving and asphalt production and road paving. I think that's the one most lucrative business that I find myself in, which is still not very big in with black contractors. It's quite a niche market. I'd in future in the next couple of years like to be one independent black asphalt producer in Gauteng. Surprisingly, there's not a single one of the 16 asphalt producers in Gauteng. There's not a single independent black asphalt producer. So I want to get into that space. People are always warned against going into business with family. What are some of the success factors in your case, as you're in business with your brothers? Look, I think with us, we learn to fend for each other at a very young age. I think one of the biggest lessons our mother imparted in us was that we would sit around the table, really for, and she would make it very clear that we have a massive family. I mean, my parents took in a lot of people. I have a lot of brothers and sisters who are not blood, but they are still my brothers and sisters. And I mean, with the four of us, mom would just say, guys, if you guys are unable to make this family work or lean on each other, we're going to have a problem. And I'm not going to lose a single one of y'all. You guys have to make sure that you carry each other through. So we have a lot of difficult conversations to keep this thing going. There are times where you don't feel like talking to your own blood brother, and then he calls you to say, "Hey, John, chelle gazol," and you're like, "But I know you can afford it." But can you realize that's just the icebreaker? So we are literally three peas in a pod. There's no separating us. And mom has made sure, and honestly, with the leadership of Butu Alta, and the strategic thinking of Tex, or in fact, the strategic aligning of Tex. I know I'm the middle child, so I'm as stereotypical as they come. So I won't say much about myself, but I have amazing siblings who really force. I mean, between you guys and I, Shibu and my brothers literally uprooted me from Polokwane to come here and make this family business thing work and start a life and a family with who I now call my wife here as my strongest pillar. But I literally had to just stop everything I did, go Polokwane, and come here to ensure that we stabilize business from a central hub, which is now Lyndhurst, the Lyndhurst office. And that on its own, it's a very crazy family dynamic, which we will share. But just in a nutshell, our businesses are all housed in one building, which we all own collectively, which is managed by our sister, and she's our landlord. She's not in business, everyone else is in business. So we are all still our brother's keepers. And that is the lesson that we were taught from childhood, that we need to literally carry each other up. In my family, there is no such thing as a rich uncle. If you've got it, it's mine as much as it's yours. If I've got it, it's yours as much as it's mine. So if you see us struggling, we're struggling together. If you see us winning, we're winning together. And that literally cuts across from uh, our eldest brothers from Mamolo side to Tex being the youngest in our lineage. Um, there is no such thing as the rich uncle in my family. You will be hauled in once you upgrade your car and you didn't pay rent. The next question, I hope I answered that right. Do you think everyone has an entrepreneurial bone in them, or can be one, or it takes a certain kind of a drive or caliber to be one? I think anyone and everyone can be an entrepreneur. Um, a child who butters a sweet for a lunchbox or their lunchbox for something else, that's entrepreneurship right there. We all have it in us. We are not, it's just that not everyone recognizes it. So if we can appreciate the fact that we are all entrepreneurs in our own right, and at different scales. We are fast on the road to fixing the economy of Africa, not just South Africa. So I believe everyone can be an entrepreneur. In the early stages of your journey after leaving your job, how important was the support structure you had? You mentioned Walter helping you buy your first car. Okay, yes. So Walter helped me buy my first car while I was an employee. Also, another interesting story. I was just trying to, before I even knew that you had to register a business to be in business, I visited a friend of mine's brother to share with him that I've passed. I have not applied at any single university and I want to make something happen. And he said, look, I forward freight from South Africa to Botswana and I run a storage facility. So if you don't mind, come through, let's see how it can work for you. So I was a bit of a, how would you call it? Yeah, a clearing agent for that friend of mine. I learned a bit of that. And I had made a promise to myself. Sorry about that. I made a promise to myself while on cricket tour in my matric year that since I'm not going to school and all my friends are going to school to varsity, I'm going to make myself unique and not see my decision as a failure. And I said to myself, by the end of March of 2008, which would have been 3, 4 months after I'd left high school, I would buy myself, I would buy a brand new car and I would then be able to visit my friends at varsity and party with them and all of that. I wrote that in a diary while I was on cricket tour and I lost my diary, remembered that I had actually left it at Walter's place. And so at the end of March, I think on the 28th of March, picked up my first car that Walter helped me to buy generously with his pay slip, and I promised to pay the monthly installments of that on that car because I couldn't afford it myself. And on my drive home, I picked up some of the belongings that I'd forgotten at his place. That when I took a break after writing my exams at his place. And when I got home, that was on the 1st of April, on April Fool's. I unpacked the junk that I'd left at Walter's place and I found my diary. And I was just paging through it. And in one of the posts I'd made, I'd made a promise that by the 31st of March, I would have bought myself a car. And I didn't even remember that I'd given God a deadline. So I think that's when my vision board organically started. And I spoke it into reality. But back to the question, the structure has been very, very important. I'm from a home where if you feel like things are not working, don't ever feel like because I've walked out, I cannot go back home. So when I left my apartment and sold the car that I had, in fact, I gave it back to Walter, because I said I couldn't keep it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to continue with it. And I gave it back to him. I went home and told mom that, Mom, I want to take on a new journey. What I'm doing is not what I want to do. So I'm coming back home. And all she said was, okay, cool. And for the most part, I think I was on the couch and on the printer for a better part of the first 6 months that I was home. And at no point did mom even ask her, but what are you doing? She was just there to support and ask her, where do you need my help? And my brothers were equally there. I remember Walter would send me 100 rand, and that 100 rands, I remember I'd catch a lift to Mokopane to submit some documents, and then catch a lift back and 50 fellow nearly at time lidijo, and that is where I actually got my first break from to build through state ground. So look, support is everything. That's why now we make sure that we are brothers keepers. Whatever we do, we ensure that we leave nobody behind. Nobody feels as though my brothers have more than I do, or they're doing better than I am. For as long as one has and they're able to give the other, we provide without compromise. Um, and in addition, how different is that support structure now, and how important is it for stability? Look, we still keep each other at bay. We still account to each other. It hasn't stopped. If anything, the pool has just grown. It's not just me and my biological brothers anymore. It's gentlemen that I do business with, that I do with my brothers. Everyone that I transact with in my private space transacts with my brothers in their own spaces as well. That's how intermingled we are. Uh, any tips on anyone married to someone in business? Love, you could have asked me. Okay. Yeah, I know you must be strong, eh? Yo, I don't know how many difficult conversation I've had to put my wife has had to put me through, and given answers to questions I had not even fathomed existed before. But look, if you believe in each other, um, it's gonna work. I think the hardest part is being with a partner who does not understand you, first and foremost, and does not understand your ambition, and does not understand your risk appetite. So when you have a partner that really appreciates who you are, they naturally drift towards that, and they're willing to take risks with you. And in most cases, when you go into a risky transaction with a partner that is fully behind you, I'm yet to fluff a deal where my wife has put our family's equity on the line when I had exhausted all that I have. So her faith in me actually, ipusha le Modimo hore, like I said earlier, for me, it's a dear God, please don't embarrass me because you're going to embarrass yourself. So now you can't embarrass me in front of my wife now, God. So yeah, that's how it is. Regarding outsourcing financial services, which company are you using, and advice on accounting software that you use for quotes, invoices, and bookkeeping. What's your business model that keeps you afloat? Oh, amazing journey, my brother. Okay, regarding outsourcing financial services, um, I'm here. Sorry, guys. Uh, Um, yeah, I've got an accounting firm. Also another brother that I've met through this journey of life. We our relationship started professionally, and we've grown to be brothers. He handles my financials so diligently and so well that even I don't put out. So the arrangement we have, everything that I quote and invoice from my side is mirrored onto the soft. Oh my goodness, I must now remember. Why did I just forget that software? Uh, Love. Okay, I'll remember that software, Prince, and I'll share it with you. So between him and that software, they manage my invoices, quotes, bookkeeping, SARS, all the other compliance with the statutory bodies that we deal with. Hulisa said, great story, brother. Also inspiring that you sustained it up to this. Oh my goodness. Oh, sorry, Prince. I forgot to ask to answer your question. Yeah, what's your business model? What keeps me afloat? To be honest with you, Prince, I use a very primitive, but for me, working model. My drive is to make more than I can spend or give away. So every single transaction that comes my way, I'm already banking it more onto. I'm already calculating it into my revenue and into my profitability. So I don't have a chance to lag behind. So it's always about getting up and finding the next big opportunity and making sure then that I make more than I can spend. I wish I could say more than my wife can spend, but she's the more frugal one, and I think I'm the more I spend a bit more than she does. Um, Tondani, you said Zoho is useful and free. I'll check it out. Um, oh yeah, Hulisa had said inspiring that you sustained it up to this point. Question is, what are the three core things that you think helped you to build such longevity in your business or from Devo? Yeah, so like I said, I'm always looking out for the next big opportunity. I'm always trying to make more than I can spend. I'm always trying to honestly invest in concepts that can sustain me even when I'm not hands-on. And I think that's the one thing that has helped to uh, open my mind up to new opportunities and take greater risks. Um, Quite earlier on, I found myself in a space where I could either buy or negotiate equity in spaces where I don't have to be on to them 24/7, I say. So it allows me to look at the next opportunity and look for the next bigger opportunity that would help help me grow and sustain my family as it may. I think my brothers would understand it a lot better because uh, the way that the hours that they are able to put in and compared to the hours that I put in generally, uh, people would think that I'm the one that just lazes around. But I guess it's the middle child syndrome. It's not about finding the hardest working guy. Find the laziest guy. He's gonna make sure he gets it done quicker. Um, what is your take on financing the kingdom activities, and how do you determine which one to finance? From Ramawolo, yes, guys. That question comes from our big brother, the chairman or the president of our family tree. What's your take on financing kingdom activities? Look, you sow as much as you can, and I've learned very fast that it's not about determining. It's not about what exactly or how much you're gonna push, or this is the one that I must, or this one I must not. I find myself just committing when I open my mouth, and what is it that God just reveals through my mouth. Sometimes I bite a bit more than I can chew, but God has been faithful. I hope I do not disappoint where I commit when it comes to kingdom activities. So I just and like I said, it's what the spirit drives me to commit to, that I do commit. Sometimes I'll just sit down and I find myself committing, or sometimes I'll wanna get up and take this on, but my spirit says no, not this one. Wait for your one, and that's how I get it done. How do I choose who to do business with, and what forms part of your social accountability as a company, charity, and the likes? Uh, who do I do business with? My younger brother, our youngest brother, Tex, actually taught me that very well. I used to do it differently. I used to try and do business with everyone that I met. But right now, I try to learn the people in that I meet through networking, and I try to understand what transacting and what money means to them before I can determine whether we can go into business together, because a relationship with money is very important, but how you relate to money is more important. So there are people who are just out there to make a profit without consideration of their morality or what goodwill is or what. So Tex has actually taught me that it, the best way to do business is to do business with people that I actually care about, people that care about me, people that I can bring home to my family and expose my children to. Then, if that level of trust can be developed, then only I transact. In government, not quite the same, because there it's just about how good are you at what you do. So if your presentation, your bid, your proposal is amazing, you are due to get that job. On the relationship side, I'm not the biggest on relationships with government officials, and most times I'm actually make more money out of the private sector than I do with government. So yeah, Mola, and God has been faithful, eh? God has been giving us those appointment letters. Bale ba ko gare le bona ke swa ba tsebe gore ba famang. They just found themselves signing. And then on the social side, look, we try do best where we can. Like I said, we don't just I don't just put money away, but something that Walter established a long time ago without my consent, and now I found myself continuing without his knowledge. If you guys don't know, my brother honestly had an opportunity. He had a choice between playing professional soccer and being a professional in the consulting space. And he chose academia over his soccer career. But I know deep down his love and passion for soccer is bigger than his pockets and his turnover. So a couple of years ago, he started this thing where um, their CSI project they would execute through my small holding, which was still very minute at the time. And so he would brand my company for tournaments that he would sponsor just soccer and not use his. And in some cases, we would use dual branding. So over time, I've then adopted a few others. There's a team in Guyana um, called KDC, Kramatat Development Club, where it's young people play soccer and netball. That myself and Shibu, whenever they need to, we would just sponsor, whether it's transport or what. The kit that they use is fully branded Pendant. 2 years ago, they had a nice year-end function where they actually recognized Shibu and I for the help that we have done there. But unfortunately, locally, I haven't yet identified any organization which we support, but we're actively looking for initiatives to support locally in the Gauteng area. What is the biggest business lesson you've learned from a significant business failure? How to plan applying it in future endeavors? Um, I think my biggest business failures have not been the transaction itself failing. I think my biggest failures have always been um, the personalities which I transact with failing the business itself. So, like I said, I've learned from tax, I only transact with people that I can trust my family with. So, and I'm one person who's honestly, I'm sorry to say this, but I am not attached to my possessions. So, if something doesn't work, I know how to let it go very fast. I'll walk off a gravy train while it's still feeding us if I know that the end is near. So I don't think there's one venture that I've sat through and taken it right down to its pits and not acknowledged it. We've sunk a lot of money into things that didn't work, but I don't think we have failed any business venture. We've rather taken executive decisions to step away from transactions that didn't work. I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm being diplomatic about it, but that's just how I do things. Um, what books or other resources inspire you as an entrepreneur, or books you read during your journey? Um, wow. I, I I'm a nonfiction person, number one. Uh, Funny enough, I enjoy reading Donald Trump. I don't like him as a person, but I find him very fascinating as a business person. Because if you were to take out a textbook and put Donald Trump against a textbook of what an entrepreneur should be, that man should be very broke and nowhere in life. But that man does things in a way that a lot of people can only wish, and a lot of great businessmen can only wish they could do things. There was one transaction when Donald wanted to finance two properties, but only one was viable, um, or rather, the financier could only finance one. So this man hired uh, a construction team to come in and start working on site, and the financier came in there and got and thought, this is impressive, I'm gonna put money there, and then took his money and then went to put it at another venture that he thought would be more viable, and invested all that money there and did not deliver that, but eventually did with the profits of the other. So he doubled his equity without with one extreme act of juggling. I'll refresh my memory without exactly how exactly he did that, but I mean, just the wittiness of that man to make sure that he knows how to make a deal work, no matter what it takes. For me, it's very inspiring. Thank you so much. In the interest of time, can you please let Dr. Bree's question be the last one? I'll just screen grab. Maybe I'll respond to. Okay, there's only one more question.
Okay, you can answer it in the interest of grace.
Oh,
Just
okay.
one
Yeah, I
more.
think oh, nice. The last question is actually from my father-in-law. Where do I position my personal emotions when running the business? Like I said, I'm not attached to possessions, and equally not attached to my businesses. Tex once asked me if State Ground if State Ground was to take off and everything goes well, and somebody comes with a lot of money and makes an offer that is higher than what I'm looking at, or it's close to the number that I'm looking at building the entity to, what would I do? I told him that I'll take the money and go. Because if I could build it up and then create an entity that somebody would genuinely be interested to put their hard-earned money to pick up where it is and continue with it, and I still have the IP to rebuild or diversify myself to another opportunity that can make me expose me and to better and bigger opportunities, why not take it and move on? So for me, there are no emotions attached. That's why even when I lose a business deal, I laugh about it. My wife stresses a lot. I'm actually more stressed about money that I've already worked for and I'm not being paid than I am about losing business, you know, and also with um, the nature of business the way it is now, people just come in and steal and overtake us because they can do things unethically. I've learned to understand that it's all part of the game. You know, if you're not willing to take it on the chin, you're going to waste a lot of time crying and sulking about it. So, for as far as you can take it, please, emotions should never be attached to running the business. You run business for what it should be, which is business, and it must make business sense. And with that, I thank you everyone very much. I really appreciate it, and I hope I've been able to answer you guys as best as I could, and it made sense to you guys in this very complex world that is of Khumi Rachidi. Thank you very much.
Amen and amen. Thank you so much, Mr. Rachidi. Um,
Thank you.
Dr. Kumbuzile said it was inspiring. She's inspired and enlightened. And the Machele says, thank you, sir, very truly inspiring. And I conquer those words. It was truly, truly inspiring me. Thank you so much. And I think it is very fitting for you to mention Donald Trump as we are having our talk about entrepreneurship. My first encounter with him was on an entrepreneurial show called The Apprentice, I think. And I just couldn't wait to hear him say, "You're fired." It was very entertaining, but um, thank you so, so, so much. Before we close it off for the night, I'd just like to ask you, Mr. Rachidi, is there anyone you'd like to send a shout out to? Any special friends, colleagues, family who are here, who don't usually join our sessions that you'd like to say thank you to? You're on mute, Mr. Rachidi.
My goodness, can I please repeat myself? Yes, as I say, so my father-in-law, yeah, first and if I don't acknowledge him, then I'm gonna have problems. Before my wife already knows she's my cheerleader, so yeah, nah, shout out she gets every day. But in the interest of the people, Lavi, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I see Wutabo, I've seen Dr. Malete, very good. He's actually our cousin and brother and family doctor of ours. Tabang, the gentleman who forced me to put up my status. You know, Tabang said something very profound to me today that, like, literally 5 minutes before I put up the poster as my status. And he said, Kumi, but we pray and work so hard for these things for us to be secretive about God making them work. You know, he says, so when we build these businesses, we ask for God, we ask God to help us. When we market them to other people, we ask God for the intervention. But the success stories, why do we want to keep them secret? So now, with us not sharing with the world what God is doing through us, and we are and people wonder to whom is this glory that this man is you know generating and you know no honestly if we're not open about the fact that all glory is to go to God, and we need to minister through our own success stories and our journeys. If we are not putting God first, then what if he had not entrusted us with that responsibility? What if he had just shattered our dreams to be in business? So Tabs, really, Oh, that's the other brother in the family clique. I see Butabi, so Ramadiva, one of Butwalter's oldest and most consistent friends, and a brother to the family. I hope I did not. Oh my goodness, I see one of Shibu's sisters, Moloko, is online. Uh, Moloko Mantata, very dear sister to me. Who else is there? There is a guest. And I think everyone that I've mentioned, of everyone that I've mentioned, I think Tabiso is the only one that has visited church. And I'm grateful to him for that. We look forward to him coming back. And the other brothers and the sisters, please do join. Now we have church is no longer where it used to be. In the next few weeks, we're moving to a new building. It's looking, we're looking like we need a whole we need a whole media team there. We can start live broadcasting from the new church, eh? I like what Mr. S is doing with the church. So yeah, much appreciated, everyone. Thanks, Kanye.